This video is going to show you how to make the Peekaboo pattern. Here is the ornament that I'm going to be making in this video. It has this cute snowman on the front. You can use any picture on fabric that you would like to put on your ornament, as long as the picture fits within a 1.5 inch by 1.5 inch space. Okay, let's talk first about the sizes of the pieces of fabric. So I didn't used to put the sizes in my videos because I use a 2.5 inch ball and a lot of people use a 3-inch ball. So that's going to be different size fabric pieces. But for my kits and ornaments that I make with the 2.5 inch styrofoam ball, the rectangular pieces are 1.5 inches by 2.5 inches. So I use 16 of those accent color pieces, the white ones on this ornament, 16 of those, and 16 of the main fabric, the red with the snowflakes, for the main fabric. And then you need, your picture is on a 2.5 inch by 2.5 inch square. You need 2 of those. And then a band of fabric to go around the outside of the ball, around the perimeter, is 2 inches by 10 inches. You'll also need some pieces of coordinating ribbon to make the bow on top. The tools that you need to complete the ornament would be a good pair of fabric scissors, a pencil, a ruler, a thimble, a box of pins, and a soft measuring tape. Before we add any fabric to our ball, we need to prep it by making these lines. This is one of the ways we keep all the layers straight and both sides symmetrical. The smooth styrofoam ball that comes with your kit has a hole on one pole and a demarcation on the other. I'm going to color in that demarcation just to make it easier to see on the video. The ball also will have a raised equator line that you can see I colored in there too, so you can see it. Take a pin and place it anywhere you like on that equator line. Push it in the ball just about halfway so it's sticking up. And then position your ball so that the hole is left to the pin. That's where we're going to make our line. So take your soft measuring tape, put it halfway up through that hole horizontally, and push a pin right through the tape to hold it there. Now you're going to run that tape horizontally under the pin that you put on the equator line, and then pin that measuring tape about halfway up through the demarcation on the other side. Now your tape measure makes a nice horizontal edge that we can draw our line on. So use your pen, make a line right along the top edge of that measuring tape. You take the pins out, half your ball will be finished, and then we do the same thing on the other side. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do after prepping our ball is put our cute picture on both sides of the ornament. So first thing you need to do is find the center of this square. You can fold it in half one direction and then fold it again in half the other direction, and this will help you find the center. The center is where those folds cross in the middle, of course. You take one of your pins and poke it through that where those lines cross, and then attach it to your ball right where the lines cross on your ball on one side, just to hold it in place. That pin won't stay there forever. You're going to see that the folds on your fabric piece line up with the lines on your ball. And then just place your pins right there in the center on those lines to match up with your ball. Use 4 pins for that, 1 on each side of the square. And then you're going to smooth down the fabric on each corner of the square with your finger and make sure it's in between the lines on your ball so it's all even, and just place a pin on each of the four corners of that square to hold your fabric down on all four corners. Now just check to make sure that everything is all lining up with the lines on your ball. You keep that pin in the center just so that you can measure the rest of your pieces. You'll understand in a minute. But we're going to put this other snowman on the opposite side. Use the same techniques. Fold that fabric in half and then fold it the other direction so that your folds will cross in the center of your square. Put your pin through the center and then add it to your other side of your ball where the lines on your styrofoam ball meet. Again, put 4 pins, one on each side of your square fabric piece, lined up with the lines on your ball. Throughout the entire process, we're going to be making sure, double checking that all of our pieces are centered and lining up with those lines on the ball. Okay, once you have those 4 pieces in, you're going to do the same thing as the other side. Smooth down each corner with your finger and make sure it's in between those lines on the ball. It should line up with the corner of the fabric on the other side. You can see that here. And put a pin in each corner. Now it's time to add your accent fabric. You're going to need 16 pieces of the accent fabric. You're going to take one rectangle and hold it horizontally. Fold down the top edge about 1/4 inch. Then fold it, the whole rectangle, in half like a book and press down those folds so that when you open it, you can find the center very easily right there. And put a pin about 1/8 of an inch down from the top of the rectangle on that line. Use that center pin as a guide. Line your soft measuring tape up next to it and place your pin at the 5/8 mark. Fold down the right side of your rectangle down to the bottom center of your rectangle, then the left side of your rectangle, fold it down so it can form a triangle. Those pieces will overlap just a tiny bit so that you can place a pin down in the bottom center and it'll hold all those pieces together. It'll be lined up with the line on your styrofoam ball. Then you can hold back one side of the rectangle and just smooth out the little bubble that you'll see in the picture fabric and put a pin in there to hold it down, and then you can easily smooth down the right side of your triangle and pin it at the bottom corner. We do the same thing on the other side. Hold back that side of your triangle, smooth out your picture fabric close to the center of your triangle, put a pin right in there and hide it underneath of your fabric. You're gonna smooth down your triangle right over top of it, nice and smooth, and put a pin down in that corner of the triangle. And you have your first piece of accent fabric secured on the ball. Everything lines up. And we're going to put one on this side, and then the other two sides. So we're going to have the first 4 pieces. Do the exact same thing. Hold it horizontally, fold down the top edge of the rectangle about a 1/4 inch, fold it like a book, press down the folds and find your center. Place the pin about 1/8 of an inch from the top of your folded rectangle. Put it over here on this side, opposite of your first triangle. Use your measuring tape to find 5/8 inch from your center pin. That's where you're going to place this top of the point of that triangle. Fold down the right side, fold down the left side, overlap a tiny bit, line it up with the line on your ball, and place a pin in the bottom center so you can secure the triangle. Hold up one side of the triangle and smooth down your picture fabric. Use a pin to secure it under right there where it's going to be underneath of the triangle. Then you can pin down the right corner of your triangle and do the same thing on the other side. Hold up the other half of your triangle. Smooth out your picture fabric and pin it underneath where the triangle fabric will hide the pin. And put your pin in the bottom left corner. Now you have 2 triangles on your ornament. Now we're going to put the 3rd and the 4th one using the same techniques. Okay, now you have 1, 2, 3, 4 triangles. See that the center lines are lining up with the lines on your ball, and we're going to be putting 5, 6, 7, and 8. For accent pieces 5, 6, 7, and 8, we're going to use the same techniques of folding and pinning our rectangles as we used for pieces 1 through 4. The only difference is going to be where you place that top pin. So we're going to use the same measurements with the soft measuring tape, and that center pin is a guide. And again, the point of your triangle is going to be 5/8 of an inch from that center pin. Make sure it's in the center between your adjacent triangles, 5/8 of an inch from the center pin, and line up all of your lines with the lines on the ball so everything is straight. You can do that for pieces 5 through 8. These pieces are actually going to be a little bit easier because you're not going to have to smooth down the picture fabric. It's already going to be nice and smooth. So it's just a matter of lining it up between your adjacent triangles, 5/8 of an inch from the center pin, and making sure your center line on your triangle lines up with the center lines on your ball. Thing I wanted to mention is if you find that your pin is showing through at the top point of your triangle, it's probably because you're putting it too close to the edge of of the rectangle. So you really want to make sure that you put 1/8 of an inch from the top of the rectangle when you place your pin in, so that it's hidden nicely underneath of those folds. Perfect. Now you have 8 pieces all the way around your picture fabric. You're going to use the exact same technique on the other side. You can take out this pin in the center. We don't need it anymore to measure. And that way you'll have 8 accent pieces on one side and 8 matching accent pieces on the other side. Now it's time to add our main fabric pieces. We're going to use this red fabric rectangles just like the accent pieces. Make sure that the wrong side is facing you. Fold down the top edge 1/4 of an inch. Fold it in half like a book. Make sure you press on those creases so you can find the center point. Place your pin 1/8 of an inch from the top of that folded fabric. And then we're going to do the 4 pieces that you did first. Pieces 1 through 4, they're the ones that are on the bottom. When you look at the 8 pieces, the 4 that are on the bottom, use your measuring tape and measure 2/8 of an inch or 1/4 inch from the point of that triangle. You're going to place the pin right through the triangle on the center line of your triangle. Make sure those things are lined up. They should line up with the other side too when you bring your corners of your triangle down. And same technique, put a pin in the bottom to hold those overlapping fabrics, and then each corner of your triangle. Now you do the same thing opposite that triangle and on both sides. So you'll have pieces 1 through 4 of your main fabric. Perfect. Now we have pieces 1, 2, 3, 4. We need to put pieces 1, 2, 3, 4 on the other side. So pieces 1 through 4 on the other side are going to go directly across from the main fabric pieces you already pinned. Right across from them, but on the other side. Use the same technique for pieces 1 through 4, side 2. Okay, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 on one side and 1, 2, 3, 4 on the other side. It's time to do 5, 6, 7, and 8 on side number 1. We're going to use the same technique, 2/8 of an inch from the point of the triangle, same as you did for pieces 1, 2, 3, 4. Now you have one side completely finished. Just need to put 5, 6, 7, and 8 on the other side. Great, now we've got both sides finished. And we're gonna check and make sure everything lines up. Things should be very symmetrical. And we're gonna put the band to cover up all of those pins down around the perimeter of the ball. It's 2 to 2.5 inches by 10 inches long. Flip it over so the wrong side faces you. We're going to fold this in 3. So fold up about halfway and then down on the other side so you make a nice folded band. You're going to line it up with where you want the top of your ornament to be. Make sure it's in the middle between both sides and covering up those pins that we had put in there at the bottom of our triangles. And you're again going to use 2 pins to hold down the top edge of this band right at the top center of our ornament. And then you just keep this fabric band folded in 3 like that. Some people iron it so it stays together. I just usually refold it as I go. Sometimes I want to make it a little thicker or a little thinner. But I just want to make sure it's in the center and it's covering up those pins. We're going to keep applying some tension and pull it all the way around till we get to the top again. Overlap those 2 pins just a little bit and put 2 more pins up there to hold it in place. Okay, so just readjust it a little bit here, make sure it's in the center. You like to hold it up to make sure that it's in the middle, that the ball isn't leaning one side or the other, and then snip off the excess fabric. Okay, you're almost finished. It's time to add our bow on top. We're going to use a 3-layer bow. One thing I wanted to mention is that you're going to see a different ornament when you're looking at the video for making the bow. I use the same 3-layer bow clip for all of my ornaments instead of remaking the wheel every time. So don't get confused. This is the same type of bow that you're going to use on the ornament that you're making, and same technique for making the bow as you'll see in the video for any of the ornaments that you want to add a 3-layer bow to. For this ornament, we're going to make a 3-layer bow. To do that, you need 3 20-inch long ribbons, a decorative pin, and a few satin pins. First, we're going to take the widest ribbon. I have a 5/8 ribbon for the 3rd layer, the bottom layer. It's best to do this layer separately from the other 2 so that it can be more secure in the ornament. I'll show you how to do that. First, you need to take your ribbon and place a satin pin about a 1/2 inch from the end of that ribbon. Use a ruler to measure from the satin pin about 2.5 inches out. Place the pin through at the 2.5 inch mark. Bring that ribbon around and you will have your first loop. Now we're going to make a loop opposite that one, 2.5 inches out. Place the pin through. Now you have 2 loops. You're going to make these loops back and forth like a fan on this satin pin. until you have 6 to 8 loops, 3 or 4 on each side. Once you get your 6 to 8 loops, you can fan out your loops on the pin so it looks pretty. And then we're going to place it in the center at the top of our ornament. Same place where we attached the band at the top. You put it right in the middle of that satin ribbon. Okay, the next thing we want to do is add a little security to that third layer. We just want to make sure it's nice and snug and there's no chances of it coming out when you're hanging it or holding the ornament and putting it on the tree year after year. So we're just going to add a few satin pins down at the bottom, close to the center, hiding under the loops here, just for some added security. Okay, we're going to do the top layer of the bow now. You want your narrow ribbon. You need an angled tip on it. Take your decorative pin and place it near the end of that ribbon. Next, you're going to measure from the pin head about 5 inches. This will form your loop for the hanger. Measure out 5 inches, stick the decorative pin back in at the 5-inch mark, and now you have your hanger. Now you want to measure from the pin head about 2 inches. Make a 2-inch loop by placing the pin through the ribbon at the 2-inch mark. We're going to use the same method that you used for the bottom layer of the bow. The only difference is that you're only doing 2-inch loops this time instead of 2.5 inches. So make about 6 loops, 3 on each side, about 2 inches long. Now that we have our 6 loops for layer number 1, just want to trim the excess ribbon. And now we're going to use this red ribbon to make the second layer. We want an angled tip on the ribbon, just looks prettier. Place that decorative pin through about a 1/2 inch from the end of that ribbon, and then measure out 2 inches from the pin head to form the loops, just like you did for the first layer. You're going to make about 6 loops, 2 inches long for layer number 2. Okay, now that you have your loops finished, just snip the excess ribbon, and now you can fan out your loops on the pin to make it look pretty. Then you pin that right on top of your third layer in the middle at the top of your ornament. Just go straight through the third layer. Thanks for watching.